Good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here on the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast, the Let's Talk to Cutler vlog, the Let's Talk to Cutler platform. And it is a Thursday. It's already the 20th of January. The month is moving, the year is moving, and we're moving right along with it. Hey, listen, if this is your first time, if you're just passing by my channel, or even if it's not your first time, but if you happen to be passing by my channel, do me a favor, please stop. I want to tell you a little bit about what I talk about every Tuesday and Thursday. I talk about things that I hope are motivational, things that are inspirational. I hope I talk about things that are sometimes challenging, that challenge us to show up a little bit better tomorrow than we did today. Doesn't mean that today was a flop. I don't take the perspective. I was stumbling over my words there, but I don't take the perspective of looking at life from somebody done me wrong kind of way. I don't take a look at the negative perspective, but I take a look at every day as an opportunity to get a little bit better. I take a look and see what nuggets can I grab from today that would catapult me into a better tomorrow than today was. And again, we don't take a look at the day as saying it was bad, it was a failure, it was a flop, or anything like that. But what we are doing, we're taking nuggets from the day. We're saying, what what was a hidden jewel? What was a nugget that I can take? And that honestly, it would cause me to show up a little bit better tomorrow than I did today. And we've been doing that, you all know, for the past over a year and a half. We've been looking from this book right here, Billboards to Better, 366 Daily Sources of Motivation and Inspiration Along the Highway of Life. Well, guess what? We've looked at that book for a while, and someone said, well, there's another book that you wrote. Can you talk about that book? As we are still in this moment, this pandemic, these situations that are somewhat overwhelming, I wrote a book that's titled When I Am Overwhelmed: How to Handle Life at its Most Intense Moments. And that's the book that we are now reviewing, because there are chapters in this book that will show us, that will strengthen us, that will enable us to deal with some of those most intense moments of life. And guess what? Not necessarily intense moments that we alone are going through, not necessarily moments that we alone are dealing with, but moments that people that we know, people that we love, people that we're concerned about, people that we care about, they too are going through some intense moments. And so while the book shows us, it strengthens us so that we can deal with our own moments, it also fortifies us so we can help the people that we love to deal with some of their moments. You all certainly, whether you know it or not, you have helped me deal with a lot of intense moments over the past year or so. So I want to thank you all for that. So guess what, you all? If you don't have the book, you can run on over to Amazon.com and pick it up. Do you need it to join the conversation? No. But will it help? Absolutely. As a matter of fact, a couple of weeks ago, I just gave away some books as a gift for a little competition that we were having. But again, grab the book if you can. If you can't, don't worry about it. I still want to see you in the chats. I want to see you here every Tuesday and Thursday, all right? Because guess what we've been talking about? How to handle life at its most intense moments. We initially started by saying one of the things that we've got to do is give your emotions a voice. We talked about that. No matter what you're going through, no matter what you're dealing with, learn to give your emotions a voice. And then who's to say that they have to have a pretty sound? Doesn't care how, nobody cares how it sounds, but give your emotions a voice. Whether you go outside and scream to the top of your voice, or whether you stay inside and you grunt, or it does not matter, but learn to express your emotions. Give your emotions a voice and let people know what it sounds like. Let yourself know what it sounds like. All right. And then after giving your emotions a voice, we said that you have to learn how to talk to yourself. Of course, some people say, encourage yourself, but from a very pragmatic level, just learn how to talk to yourself, learn how to encourage yourself, learn how to walk yourself out of situations, learn how to talk yourself out of situations. Remember to look within yourself and say, you know what? I've got everything that I need inside of me to deal with every situation that I'll ever encounter. And so that is one thing that we talked about. Learn how to encourage yourself, learn how to talk to yourself, learn how to look yourself in the mirror and say, you know what? You can make it. Yes, you will, because we talked about some of the things that we should say to ourselves. Remember, in one of the segments, we said, so what are the things we should be saying? We talked about that. So make sure, if you haven't done so already, go back and catch that segment where we talked about what are some of the things that we say to ourselves. And then in our last conversation, we talked about not only fortifying ourselves, but after we have talked to ourselves, how do we encourage other people? How do we motivate them? How do we inspire them to hang in there? And how do we inspire them to hold on? We said we could do what I call is using the ABCs of encouraging people. From our perspective, we should always be courteous. We should always be considerate, and we should always be courageous. So think about that. If you're courteous, if you're considerate, and you're courageous, you have the stuff inside of you to encourage other people, and then encourage them to do the same thing, to be the same person, to be the same kind of person that you are, considerate, courteous, and courageous. We talked about that, right? So what I want to do now, I want to go on and chat about something else. But do me a favor, if this is your first time, if you haven't done so, go ahead and subscribe. Go ahead and subscribe. And once you subscribe, why don't you click on the notification bell? It lets you know whenever I go live, whenever I upload new content, all that kind of stuff, right? And if you haven't done so, do me a favor, do a thumbs up on the conversation. It encourages me, and it says to YouTube, hey, I like the stuff that guy's talking about. All right, I want to shout out some of the LTTC VIPs before I move on, all right? And they are typically they're the people who just sort of jump in the chat room first. And they are Annie Cutler says, let's ride. Let me just pop these in here. Annie Cutler says, let's ride. Donnell Feaster says to everybody, hey, y'all. She didn't say to y'all. That's just me because I'm country. And then Fabulous Me says, hey to everybody. All right. So good to see all of you. It's good to see everybody. By the way, listen, I shared something. I was telling you all how I was really encouraged by some of the things that you all sometimes send me. And I want to correct. I have to get this. Hey, Auntie, it's good to see you, my friend. I have to correct something. I was telling you all that one of you sent me some information. You were telling me how you enjoyed the video that I uploaded doing my father's eulogy, and I mischaracterized something. So I want to make sure that I correct it. One of the fellow passengers was telling me that while listening to that particular clip, it sort of served as a background message while she was working on a shirt. One of her brothers had passed, and she had taken that shirt and she was making bow ties for the rest of her brothers to wear. Now, I think when I told you all, what I shared that with you, I said that she made it for her brothers to actually wear at the brothers' memorial. Wrong, totally wrong. So I had to go back and get the message. She was making those bow ties for her brothers to wear at the niece's wedding. At the niece's wedding, some years later, they all had shirts. They all had bow ties from a shirt that was made from the deceased brother at their niece's wedding. And I thought that was absolutely beautiful. When I tell you that, almost brought tears to my eyes, but it encouraged me because it reminded me of what kind of community we are. I often say, let's keep building community and let's keep maintaining connectivity. And as we are walking through these moments that are intense, messages like that remind me that we are stronger together than we are individually, that we're stronger united than we are separated and separate. So thank you all for being a part of this community. I want to go into another part of this book because I want us to make sure that we make the world a better place. I want us to make sure that we are striving to make people feel good about being alive. And again, that's part of the premise of this channel. Let's make the world a better place. Let's make other people feel good about being alive, because you all, whether you know it or not, people are still having suicide thoughts and suicidal tendencies. And I never take that for granted. I don't take it lightly at all. I cringe when I think of that because it's a real situation. So let's do our part to make people feel good about being alive. Let's make people feel good about knowing you and knowing who you are. One of my favorite songs is If I Can Help Somebody. But listen, you all, if you really want to sincerely help somebody as you pass along, if you want to cheer someone with a word or song, if you want to show somebody that they're traveling wrong, then let them know that they matter. Let them know that they count. Make sure that you do your part. Make sure that you do your part to make this world a better place. People are going through all sorts of things. And I think one of the best things that we can do is to make sure that the people we love know that we love them. I want you all to go on a journey with me for just a moment. I promise you, I'll get to chapter 4, but I want you all to go on a journey with me for just a moment. I want you to imagine that you're riding through a small town and you're riding along the main road of this small town. Will you all go here with me for just a moment? Imagine that you're riding down this small town, but you're riding on the main road. And then I want you to make a left or right off that main road for just a moment, for just a moment. And now when you veer off of the main road, you're going down a solitary road. And on either side of the road, there are these giant pine trees. And you're driving for about 2 or 3 miles, and all you see on either side of this road, this secluded road, are pine trees. And then as you're clearing, as you're getting out to the end of that 2 or 3 miles, you see a wide opening. And when you see this wide opening, go here with me for just a moment. As you see this wide opening, you discover that you're driving up to the ocean. And just before you get to the ocean, guess what? You drive along a dirt road. And you drive along that dirt road for about a half a mile, and then all of a sudden, the dirt road lands you right to the shore of the ocean. Now, at the shore of the ocean, did anybody see Forrest Gump? At the shore of the ocean, there are these boats. There are these boats docked along a pier, boats that look like the shrimp boat and the fish boat and the crab boats from Forrest Gump. All right? But it's a dirt road that got you there. After driving 2 miles along these pine trees on either side of the road, that's the place where I grew up. I grew up in the country, and that's where I grew up. And one of the things that was important for me growing up along that dirt road was making sure that the people that I loved knew that I loved them. I want to read you something that I wrote, speaking of trying to make the world a better place. I wrote something in one of my books called Thoughts Keep Flowing. And there's a segment that says, life just keeps speaking. And I wrote this place, and I hope my writing has matured since this time, but I wrote a piece, just a free verse, blank verse, and it was called Things Country Boys Do, because I grew up in the country. I had to create that setting so you all get it. And there's a litany of things that country boys do. What are country boys doing? They're building bridges and caves with dirt, throwing rocks at cars, swimming naked in the river, building clubhouses in the woods, visiting cousins during the weekends and the summers, riding, racing on bicycles, making snow cream when it snows, eating homemade holiday desserts, picking berries along dirt roads and horse pastures, riding bikes on frozen rivers, diving in pools that we never owned, rowing to an island in a small boat, dropping and pulling crab pots. Y'all got to be from the country to know some of this stuff. Speeding down the branch in go-karts, catching minnows and putting them in the fish tank, playing basketball and killing the grass, learning to maneuver motorcycles when nobody can see us, water skiing with our twins of a different color, shooting rifles and shotguns, driving abandoned cars across open fields, running through the woods faster than most animals, fishing on the piers that we considered lucky, dancing and even making up dance routines, sitting on the top of the last load of tobacco, dog pedaling and doing stunts on bikes, playing baseball on the local league, getting any kind of mail, selling candles and cards and winning prizes, blowing out candles on birthday cakes, shooting bows and arrows in an open field, eating anything that mama cooked, getting an extra helping of Kool-Aid, owning your own hair comb, enjoying the breeze when the curtains were raised, eating fresh fruits and vegetables from trees and gardens, picking watermelon from our own fields, going to great grandpa's house for anything, collecting eggs from the hen's nests, running to the corner store even without money, seeing good friends in neighboring towns, going to the county fair, shooting marbles, finding money, lying on the floor after overeating, making arrows out of dried limbs and bottle caps, making slingshots out of tree branches and inner tubes, playing with all of our pets and our animals, and they were many, having family card and dance parties almost every weekend, knowing that the people we love know that we love them. These are things that country boys are doing. I just wanted to share that because that was so nostalgic for me as I think about making the world a better place and thinking about making people feel good about being alive. And it took me back to that time. It took me back to that place when there was a community of people who made you feel good about being alive. And they made sure that the people that you loved and people who loved you knew that you loved them. So I wanted to share that with you all. All right. And so now I want to go into chapter 4. I want to go into chapter 4 when I'm overwhelmed. And chapter 4 is all about building a peaceful habitation. May I read this? You all go along with me. If you have the book, feel free to read along with me and comment and let's talk to me about this book. Build a peaceful habitation. That's how you handle life at its most intense moments. Sometimes we think of the word peace as an overused expression which is meant to suggest a utopia-like situation where there are no trials, troubles, or tribulations. That's how we think of peace. However, the word peace is not always intended to imply perfection, but rather a space or a condition that is void of chaos. That's what peace is. It's a space that is void of chaos. So, in the midst of a peaceful situation or a peaceful habitation, there may be challenges and troubles, but they do not rise to the level of uncontrolled chaos. So, understand, what am I saying there? I'm saying that there can be peaceful habitations and peaceful situations, and you still have challenges, you still have troubles, but it doesn't mean that your space is not peaceful, right? You can still deal with troubling situations yet maintain a peaceful habitation. I have had the occasion to walk into many serene and peaceful homes. However, the overall feeling of peace and serenity did not negate the fact that there were problems or troubles within the home. I'm convinced that it is possible to create a peaceful habitation despite the existence of trouble. So I want to deal with that for just a moment. Listen, you all, despite trouble, despite tribulations, despite trials, despite challenges, you can still create and build a peaceful habitation. Sometimes people lead us to believe that the only way to create peace is to get rid of all trouble, to get rid of all trials, to get rid of all tribulations, to get rid of all challenges. But that's saying get rid of life. We're not trying to get rid of life. We're trying to create a peaceful habitation despite what life is throwing at us. And it can be done. It definitely can be done. How many of you would say that you live in a space of peace, even though you deal with trouble? Even though you deal with challenges, you would say that you deal with a space of peace. I believe that one of the best ways to accomplish this is to surround oneself with like-minded, peace-seeking individuals. That's what I believe with my whole heart. That's why I love this community here. Surround yourself with like-minded, peace-seeking individuals. In other words, people can make or break your peace. And ultimately, the degree to which we exist in a peaceful habitation is up to us. The onus of whether or not we live in a peaceful space is up to us. People can try to make or break your peace, but I'm a strong proponent of the fact that you have to surround yourself with like-minded, peace-seeking individuals. I say so many times that if your brick doesn't fit the foundation, if you're not trying to bring peace into the space that I'm creating, guess what? You're not like-minded. We're not like-minded. We are really unequally yoked. It's not just about marriage and friendship. It is about people who you invite into your space. We may be unequally yoked because, listen, I'm a peace-seeking person. And I'm too old at this point to invite people into my space who are not peace-seeking. If the truth be told, I was too old for it when I was in my 20s. I just didn't know. Too old for it when I was in my 30s and 40s. I just didn't know. But at this point, at this age of the game, I'm looking for people who are peace-seeking, who are like-minded, who think like I do. And you ought to want the same kind of people in your space. You don't want people in your space who don't think like you. I'm not saying that anybody has to be a clone or they have to be just like you, but you want like-minded people. You want people who have goals and people who have aspirations and people who are trying to keep peace and make life better, not make life worse. That's who you ought to want in your life. And at this age, one of the things I've discovered is that it is okay for me to do an inventory of the people who are in my life and to say goodbye to some of them. You don't have to keep everybody in your life who is currently in your life. May I say that again? You don't have to keep everybody in your life who is currently in your life. Feel free, feel deputized to do an inventory of the people who are in your life, and you mean no harm to them by removing them from your close space. Feel free to remove people from your close space. They don't have to be outside of your life, but don't give them proximity into your inner heart and your inner soul and your inner thoughts. You want people, thank you, Fabulous Me. You want people who are moving in the same direction. Thank you, T. Cutler. You want like-minded, peace-seeking individuals. Because guess what? If we are like-minded, you are going to be able to help me deal with those moments and those times when I'm overwhelmed and those times when I'm dealing with intense moments, because you will be headed in the same direction. And when I feel like I want to stop, you say, no, Cutler, you can't stop. We're on the same trajectory. My brother, let's keep going. My friend, we've got to move further. That's why you want like-minded people. They don't have to be clones, but they have to at least have similar values, similar principles, same guiding goals and objectives. People who are moving in the same direction. I don't want anybody who's just like me. The world only needs one of me. The world only needs one of you. But we can all be like-minded and move in the same direction. Because you want somebody to fuel your peace and you want to be able to fuel the peace of others. I believe that the more peace one has, the less he is prone to become overwhelmed by life. So I encourage people to build peaceful habitations. I encourage people to build peaceful habitations. Thank you, Tracy. You're right, because some people just like to keep chaos going. And at this point along the highway, as we're moving along the highway of life, you don't want people to keep chaos and mess going. Neither do we want to be the people who keep chaos and mess going. But you don't want people in your life who keep chaos and mess going. I've said goodbye to a whole lot of people. And it does not mean that I don't stay in contact with them. Let me clarify that. It doesn't mean that I don't stay in contact with them. It just means that they are not in the nuclear happenings of my everyday life. When it comes time for me to make life-altering and life-changing decisions, they are not a part of that nucleus. Because I need a peaceful habitation. I don't need people just going, as we say in the country, who just gonna keep mess stirred up and keep mess going. Not at all. And neither do you. And when you become empowered enough, when you become empowered to the point that you can say, no, those people don't get to come into my life. I may have shared with you all before that one of my cousins, every year when we go from the old year to the new year, she doesn't necessarily make resolutions, but one of the things that she will say to her community is this: I've made some changes this year. You all catch this. I love this. She would post it on her social media platforms every year. She says, I've made some changes this year. And if you don't hear from me, you're one of the changes that I made. I thought that was brilliant. And I told her, I said, cousin, listen, I need to adopt that. Can I use that one? You all please feel free to use it. Tell people, listen, I've made some changes. And if you don't hear from me, you're one of the changes that I made. I got to go on and keep reading you all. Because listen, one of the lessons that life has taught me is that we create the space and we build the environment where we want to live. We create the space and we build the environment where we want to live. How do we do that? We take the time through trial and error and through time and temperament to cultivate the type of atmosphere that is conducive to how we navigate our own existence. We build the space that works for us. That's what I'm saying. We build the space that works for us. In essence, we build the bubble that we called home. And if our bubble, I'm reading the book, and if our bubble is septic and putrid, it is because we allow it. If our bubble is contaminated by the likes of individuals who engage in nefarious behavior, it is because we permit it. And if we are continuously overwhelmed by the acts, the actions, and the activities of anybody other than ourselves, it might be because we gave a trespasser residence into our lives. Good God Almighty. We build the space. And if it's contaminated, might it be because we let somebody inside? We gave a trespasser residence into our lives. So if we're living in a contaminated, a septic, a putrid space, it might be because we gave somebody who is not like-minded, we gave them the opportunity, we gave them access, we gave them the authority to reside in our space. And so guess what? The only way they're going to get out is that we have to evict them. I know it sounds hardcore, you all, but I'm a proponent of building a peaceful habitat. I really am. It doesn't mean that I love anybody any less, but it means that I think enough of myself to know that I don't want to live with chaos. I don't want to live with mess. I don't want to live with anxiety. I don't want to live with high blood pressure. I don't want to live on the verge of a stroke. I don't want to live with hypertension. I don't want to live any of that if I can control it, if I can influence, if I can have some impact, if I can effect change. I'm telling you that a lot of times the toxicity that's in our space is because somehow we have permitted it to exist. Not that we welcomed it, not that we wanted it, but we have allowed it. We have allowed it. And I empower us this evening. My offering, I offer us the power to change the space if our space is not what we want. I'm with you, Paula D. I see it. I choose like-minded people with math equations. I keep the people who will add or multiply to my piece, and I eliminate those who will subtract or divide. Yes, MV, peace of mind has lots of value. It's important. And listen, you all, in this time in the middle, it's enough going on in the world with this pandemic, with not being able to see family members, with not being able to hug folk, with not being able to do a whole lot of stuff. You learn to multiply. Thank you, Paula D. You learn to multiply and add people who add to your piece, but you learn to eliminate people who subtract and divide from your piece. You do. Because sometimes, just as our space may be septic and putrid, the converse is true. The opposite may be true. Conversely, if your bubble has been sanitized and sterilized, it's because we put in the work. We made the effort. We took the time and we did the cleaning. And if the floor covering and the pathways in our bubble contain only a few footprints, it is because we refuse to allow admittance to those who would not respect the cleanliness of the space that we just created. What am I saying, you all? I'm saying this. In order to have a really sterile space that's filled with peace, we've got to do the work. I tell people so many times that your peace is worth fighting for. Contend, fight for the peace that you want, work for the peace that you deserve, and you deserve peace. You deserve peace. Many of us who have any semblance of peace in our lives, we would tell you all, tell me if I'm telling the truth. Many of us who now have a peaceful space where we live, how many of you all will agree with me and can attest to the fact that it's because we work to build that space? We had challenges and opportunities where chaotic situations could have existed, but we worked. And we said, there's some things that I'm just not going to tolerate. There's some things that I'm just not going to put up with. There's some things that I'm not going to deal with. And if people are offended by it, well, then so what? My peace of mind is important. May I be honest? May I be transparent? There are some people friends and family members, there's some people right now in my life, in my space, who don't necessarily contact me, who don't necessarily call me, who don't necessarily text me because they know my standard is that it has to be one of peace. Don't bring any mess, don't bring any chaos, don't bring any anxiety my way. Just don't bring it. Not to deliver it to the point where you know you're just bringing mess. And I didn't say bad news because bad news comes a dime or a dozen. We all have to deal with that. Life happens to us all, but for people who listen, you all, and we know people, and we sometimes allow them to stay in our lives because we become codependent. We get a buzz, we get a high out of having chaos in our lives, some of us. But I'm telling you, my peace is so important because guess what? My body responds to peace, my mind responds to peace, my soul and my heart responds to peace, and I like the way I feel when I'm living in peace. Somebody just put in the chat, I got to go, y'all, but somebody just say, I like the way peace feels. Yes, absolutely. I see what you all are saying. Fabulous. Maybe we got to clean house on a regular basis, clean house regularly. Because people will walk into a space that you've created, and as clean as you may have gotten, and I'm talking about your clean, peaceful space, there are people who have disregard and no respect for what you have worked to create, and they will walk into your homes, they will walk into your heart, and they will walk into your life, and they will leave footprints of mud and mess all along, and they wouldn't give a dime about what you do, how you work hard to keep your space clean. So then, contend for the space that you fought, that you built, that you worked hard to create a peaceful space. Yes. I'll pick up and keep reading reading this, but I'm telling you, this is important. This is important. This is critical. One of my friends said to me, Cutler, while you're talking, while you're going through this book, my friend, do me a favor, slow down, read the book, and share it with us so that we get the passion of what you wrote in the book. Well, now guess what, you all? You're getting the true passion of what I wrote. I hope, talking about a book review from the author, I hope you all see, I hope you all are getting the living, the living energy of the words that I put on the page. Because it's important to me. It is so important. I love the way that peace feels. And yes, I'm looking at your comments and I love them. Because and I will. I see some of your comments. So what I will do, so the next time what I'm going to do, I'm going to make sure that as we're talking about, because I'm human, and I realize that sometimes when you fight for and you work for and you work hard to get the space, you say to yourself, I need to strike a balance. I don't want to live in this space alone. I don't want to live in this bubble by myself. But I need to be able to find a balance. I need to strike a balance. We'll talk about that. We're going to talk about that. But one of the ways to handle life at its most intense moments is to build a peaceful habitation. And we've talked about that, and I promise you, we will continue this conversation. Let me see. You all, if you're reading along with me, you all know what page I'm on in the book. I'm just going to try to look up really quickly to see where I am. What page, Cutler, what page are you on in the book? I'm just on page, I'm just on page 29, 28, 29. But we'll pick up from here because you want to, we'll pick up from here. We'll just pick up from here because guess what I want to do next? I want to talk about the kinds of people that we have in our lives, and I'll give you a heads up. I categorize people either as donors or recipients. Donors, giving, or recipients, taking. Next time we chit chat, I want to talk about the donors and the recipients. You all, thank you all so much for tuning in. Thank you for joining this conversation. Invite more people. Tell them, listen, tell them, come on, y'all, let's talk to Cutler, because guess what? We are learning how to handle life at its most intense moments. We are talking about how to handle life when we are overwhelmed. I want to thank you all. Make sure that you join me here next week. I will see you all later. Listen, I even forgot to play the opening tonight. I just jumped right into the conversation. But do me a favor. Let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. You all stay safe, stay sane. Make sure you keep your heads up, keep your hopes up, and know this is the God's truth from my heart to yours. There is and always will be so much love. I love you. I appreciate you all. Good night. Bye-bye.